Hey guys, it's Alyssa from AlyssaNalani.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today is the third installment in a series that I'm doing this month called Build a Better Year 2020. Now, if you have not yet watched the first two videos in the series, then I invite you to do so. You'll find the links for them in the description box. They kind of build on each other, so you'll want to make sure that you're all caught up if you haven't been following so far. Now, so far we have talked about how to do a brain dump and set life priorities. And then we talked about how to choose a planner or planner system for 2020. And then today, as you saw from the title of the video, we're talking about how to set goals and resolutions. Now, I do want to apologize before we even get started. I still have this cough, you guys. If you've been following along for the past about a week, I've been coughing and it's made recording really difficult. But we're going to power through, and please bear with me. I'm going to try to make sure that I either don't cough, or if I do, that I can cut it out. So bear with me. There will be a lot of throat clearing, and we'll see how well I can get through this. This will probably be as chatty as the other ones have been. So if you want to go ahead and grab something to drink, I've got my tea here. We'll just get settled in and get started. Now, I do also want to say that I did a video last December in 2018 talking about this exact same topic of resolutions and goals and how to work them in your planner system. And that was a part of a collaborative series that was running through December called the 25 Days of Planner Tips, which you may have seen. And if you want to watch that video, it is also linked in the description box. The difference, because I thought about it and I was like, well, do I want to do, a copycat video? And the difference between that video and this one is in that video, I was just talking. In this video, I'm going to try to illustrate how this looks on paper and kind of give you a visual vantage point. So I do recommend that you watch that video if you kind of want a bit more commentary on the subject, but this one is going to be different in that I'm here at my desk and I'm going to try to show you some things on paper. The other thing is that I do have my power sheets here, as you can see. This is my first year using power sheets. I'm going to try to figure out, and I'm still kind of working on it, but the challenge for me is taking the system that I kind of put together for myself last year and translating it into power sheets. So after I kind of go through this process, I'm going to kind of show you what might be similar and what I'm thinking of doing and how I'm thinking of putting this together in my power sheets. You do not have to have power sheets to do this exercise or go through this process. But since I have them, I am going to address it and kind of show you what I'm thinking of and what I'm planning on. So that'll be towards the end of this video. But let's go ahead and get started. And just to kind of set the stage and pick up where we left off from the first video, let me just show you this. So these are my life priorities that I set up for myself for 2019, right? There are 10. In Power Sheets, she has 8 spaces for, areas of your life or categories of your life. I am going to try to translate my 10 into 8 so I can seamlessly use her process without trying to make too many changes. So we are going to kind of go through this. I'm going to show you how the process works for me and how it kind of works in my head. So you've chosen your priorities, right? That's what we talked about in the last video. And now you want to figure out, okay, so I'm trying to set goals. I'm trying to make resolutions. How does this work? So for the sake of example, let's just write a couple of these down. So self-care. Okay. And maybe marriage. Okay. And let's see, do we want to do another one? Let's see, I have spiritual growth and personal development separated, but in Power Sheets, they're together. So since I'm going to be using Power Sheets, let's go ahead and just put those together. Let's see, spiritual and personal growth. Okay. Now, when we make resolutions lists, because they're such a popular thing, and maybe you do, and maybe you don't, but when people make resolutions lists, they often put things on there like, be healthier, be healthier, get active, advance in my career, get higher education, or pursue a degree, or something like that. Be a better parent or be a better spouse, those kinds of things. And there's nothing wrong with those. Those are absolutely great things to pursue. However, those kinds of statements on a list are not actionable. So when January 1st rolls around and you have a list that's full of statements like that, there's no starting point. There's no to-do list. There's no next action. There's no plan or guide of any kind. And so if we like the word resolution, then I invite you to look at it maybe in a little bit of a different way. So instead of writing a list of resolutions, how I kind of like to think of it is make a resolution statement. And you can do this for each one of your categories. Resolution statement. Okay, so for self-care, your statement might look like something like this. I resolve to take better care of myself and my surroundings or my environment so that I can best take care of the people around me and my responsibilities. Okay, that's an example of a resolution statement. So I resolve to ... The second half of that statement is so. Okay, ... So the first part of the statement tells you what you want to work on, what you are working towards, what the goal is. And the second part of the statement tells you why. Why do you want to resolve to do X, Y, Z? Okay, so the so in the statement answers your why. And it's so important to have a why because on the days where you don't want to go to the gym, on the days where you don't want to do another load of laundry, on the days where you don't want to, be the first one to apologize, on the days where you don't want to read your Bible first thing, or whatever it is, you have a why to go back to. You have a why to kind of get you back to center, to remind you of why you made the resolution in the first place, right? So actually, let me put this way. So you have your categories or your priorities or your areas, whatever you want to call them. And then you have a resolve. And you can write a resolution statement for each area that you are that you're going through. Now, the other thing you can do is you can make, let me move this down a little bit. You can make a general resolution statement. Let's say, that's all well and fine, but doing a resolution statement for each one of these areas is a little much. So let's say you just make a general resolution statement, okay? Okay. You could say, like for me, my general resolution statement would be, I resolve to live well and stay focused. Right? So for those of you who may have visited my blog, that's the tagline of my blog. And then also it's the name of our Facebook group where we are pursuing intentional living. Live well, stay focused. So that would be my general resolution statement. So you can make one for each area of your life, and or make a general resolution statement that kind of umbrellas or encapsulates the why of what you're doing. Now, I don't have enough room on the sticky note, but I do need a so. I resolved to live well and stay focused so that, and then I would need to finish that off. And I'm gonna have to think about that. What is my why? What is my so statement? Okay. Now we're getting somewhere, right? We're kind of finding what our direction is, but it's still not actionable. Okay. To me, in my head, and this is just me, resolutions aren't necessarily actionable. You have to now further break it down. Okay. So we have up here, we have our different areas. We've made a resolution statement. This kind of gives us some direction. Now we need to put some goals under there. Okay. Let's see, a goal for self-care might be build a better body. Okay, that's addressing the health aspect. Okay, I want to build a better body in 2020. And the reason why I could come up with that so quickly is because that was also a goal for 2019, and it still did not happen the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. Many things get rolled over into the next year, so no shame there. Anyway, so build a better body. Another goal might be to create, this is another one that's getting rolled over. I've been struggling with this all year, you guys. Whoops. That's a P, not an R. Anyway, you know what that's supposed to be. Build better AM and PM routines. Okay, so that's another goal. Now we're starting to get some action here. Okay, now I know what I'm working towards, and these are kind of the subset, the actual. We're getting more logistical here, right? These are the actual things I'm working towards. Okay, now that we have goals, we need an action plan for those goals, right? So an action plan for building a better body is going to look probably or potentially something like exercise. Yeah. And not just exercise, but I want to exercise 3 times a week, at least. Okay? At least. Drink so many ounces of H2O. Okay? And the recommended amount of water would be half your body weight in ounces, so you would assign that number. Let's add one more. Let's say eat clean. Okay? So those are my 3 action steps, my 3 action items. This now is actionable. These are the things that I can put in my planner, that I can put in my habit tracker, if you've got a habit tracker, that I can, I can measure. These are things that I can measure. I can check off daily or weekly or monthly or whatever it is. And then this gets me towards this, and this gets me towards this, right? In this area. And you can do this as detailed or as general as you want. Now, you don't want to get so incredibly detailed that you don't leave room for grace. Because if we get too detailed and we micromanage every little thing, y'all, you're gonna fail. Right? You're not going to do any of this perfectly. You're going to fail. And if you micromanage it too much, when you do when you do fail in something, you could potentially, your house of cards might fall down, right? So if you don't do one thing, it might affect another thing, and then that, affects something else. And it kind of tumbles down, and then you feel like a failure, right? So you need to be able to allow enough room to give yourself grace. However, you don't want to be too general that you don't have action steps. So you do need to be able to, when your feet hit the floor, you know what is expected of you. So that if this isn't happening, you know why. You don't ever want to be in a place where you're like, oh man, like I'm not building a better body. Well, do you know why? Did you set action, steps? Did you give yourself things to do? Well, not really. Well, that's why that's not happening. So be detailed enough so that you have kind of, a course to take, but don't get too detailed where if, something falls apart or when you fail or whatever, that you can't, pick yourself up, give yourself some grace and keep going. I hope that makes sense. You also want to make sure that you leave room in your life for some serendipity. Stuff happens, good and bad. And if you're too detail oriented, you can't let go enough to just let life happen, right? And let the blessings come, or even be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Be flexible enough. So even when maybe negative things happen or things that were not on your to-do list come up, which they do, that you've got some room to allow for that and to welcome that in. So there's going to have to be a balance in how detail-oriented you are and kind of how you build this up. So just, give yourself a little bit of grace, give yourself some wiggle room, and, have some control, but also allow life to happen. Okay? So this is the basic framework that I kind of put together for myself. And this is kind of how it looked in my setup for this past year. So I had my priorities. I did not make resolution statements. This is kind of something that I thought of after the fact, but I wrote down what the ideal was, okay? So in each one of these areas, I had what the ideal situation would look like. And then I had tasks that I could do in order to meet these ideals. And I didn't do any of this perfectly at all. That's one of the reasons why I feel comfortable pairing my 10 areas to 8 in the hopes that, it'll make it a little bit easier to kind of go through. So that's the framework. That's how that kind of works in my head. And then what you're going to want to do as you are keeping track of this is you want to have at least weekly, monthly, and quarterly reviews. So check in with yourself every week, check in with yourself at the end of every month, and check in with yourself at the end of every quarter to see how are you progressing, how are things working out for you, what do you potentially need to change or adjust. Maybe you made a goal, at the beginning of the year and you decide you just want to ditch it because it's not working or it's not the right goal to pursue right now. So let's say my year turns out that this is not necessarily a priority for me anymore, right? I'm just going to focus on building a better body. And sometimes you have to prune things away, and that's totally fine. Don't feel like if you ditch something that you failed. Sometimes even a good goal may not be right now. Okay? So don't be afraid to ditch if you need to. So weekly, monthly, and quarterly reviews. Make sure you schedule some time for that so that you can kind of keep up with what's going on here. Now let's take a look at power sheets. So I've already kind of showed you how this kind of looks a little different already when it comes to the areas, right? So we have 8 areas, whereas I had 10, and I'm going to try to pare this down. This is the first page, and this is where you can kind of sketch out what your goal ideas are. This is not written in stone. You don't have to stick to it. This is just to kind of get your brain going. And you may have done some of this in your brain dump, right? Come up with ideas of what you want to pursue in the new year, okay? The other thing that I wanted to point out is, so like I said, what I put together for myself is not going to translate perfectly in here. So what I'm thinking is, in my journal, because I do have a daily journal type thing in my Stylogy, I'm probably going to do these types of things in my journal using the same categories that she has in PowerSheets, right? Using these categories, manage some of these things in my journal, and then where she has your goals for the year, I'm going to use this master list, pull some bigger project type goals from each one of my areas and track them here. So it may not be build a better body necessarily. It might be something else. But the way that this is set up is kind of like project management, which I love, which is why I wanted this. But because I have so many things, and this is where I said you kind of have to be balanced in how detailed you want to get and how many goals you want to set within each area. Don't do too many, but I feel like I might have too many for it to kind of fit in the framework. So I think I'm going to pick like bigger project type things and do them in here. So you pick a goal in each area, right? Because there are 8 goal sections, and you can have as many as 8, but you can do as few as 2 or 4 or 5 or whatever. And then for each goal, you have an action plan. And this is kind of cool because your goal for the year is XYZ, and then you have your why. So she encourages you, figure out what your why is, figure out the reasoning behind what you have chosen. And then she has a few other prompts here. And then within the bigger goal, she has space for 3 mini goals. And the reason why this is a little different is the mini goals are things that you can pursue over a 1 to 3 month period, she says here. Okay, so these have start periods and end periods. Okay, a start time and an end time. Some things that you resolve to do, or some of the goals that you may take on, don't necessarily have a start and end time, right? You want to pursue this all year, right? You want to pursue something like this all year. Marriage, like one of my goals for my marriage was to go on 52 dates with my husband, which means 1 date per week for the entire year. So depending on what you are pursuing, what your goals are, you know, they're going to have different time frames. So it may last the entire year. It could be a project that's only going to last, you know, a few months or what have you. So the things that are smaller in time scope are going to be put in here. But the things that don't necessarily have a start time and an end time, I'm going to keep track of in my journal. I really hope that makes sense. And as you are choosing your resolutions and your goals, do also take into consideration that some things have a start time and an end time, some things don't. So in your planner system or whatever you're using, and whatever planner you chose, it may not have space for this. So you might have to do this in a journal of some kind, or get another planner if you want to. But do set something up so that you're keeping track of the things that are just gonna be a part of your lifestyle and the things that are projects that have a start and a finish and maybe have some type of like require some type of project management, like websites that you might need to keep track of, or, you know, books that you might need to read, or conversations that you might need to have, or people that you need to work with. So there's a lot of things that play into goals. And you want to have a place where you can keep track of all the bits and pieces, whether you're tracking something throughout the year or whether you're setting up a project that has a start and an end date. So PowerSheets is going to be mostly for things that have a start and an end date. And then in my bullet journal setup, which I do plan to have, I'll probably keep track of, and in my daily and weekly planners, I do plan to keep track of the things that have to happen on a daily or weekly or even monthly basis that just is going to require maintenance throughout the year. All right, I think that's it. I am going to go ahead and end the video before I start coughing. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. I'm still catching up on the ones from the past couple of videos. I really appreciate your feedback, and I hope that this has been helpful. I hope this has made sense. I've actually kind of struggled on this video the most so far, and so I hope that it makes sense, but I'm just going to let it be what it has been and put it out there for y'all. Again, questions, comments, you know where to leave them. I will be back next week, and we're going to be talking about choosing a word and a verse for the year, and then something else that I've never really talked about, but that I have used in the past, and I'm really excited to share with you. So, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day. Oh, I'm trying not to cough. And I will talk to you all in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.